All right, hi everybody. I'm Tracheopteryx from Yearn and from Coordinate. And I'm going to be talking about how to contribute to DAOs. So I got into DeFi in DeFi summer 2020. And what happened was a friend sent me a text, said, buy Wi-Fi. And I was like, okay, let me take a look at this. And it was good because I bought it pretty cheap, but it was the last day of farming. But I was blown away because here was a truly decentralized organization born out of just this explosion of generosity where Andre gave all the Wi-Fi to the world. And I just had to be a part of it. And this was really, as far as I could tell, the most decentralized kind of first organism like this on the planet. And from the start, there was nobody really in charge. Andre was not in charge. We were all trying to figure out how to make it work. And we developed all these structures. And over the last almost 2 years, we've learned a lot about what it means to participate in a real DAO. And so I'm going to share some of that now. The first thing is, what is a DAO, right? There's so many different types of DAOs. So here's a definition, that DAOs are decentralized networks of agents controlling property with smart contracts. So what differentiates a DAO from a corporation is that it's on blockchain and it's able to have this real decentralized participation and shared ownership. And the contribution part is these agents controlling property. How do you become a part of that aspect of the DAO? But first, we have to start by thinking about the network, right? Because DAOs are these complex network entities. They often don't have a clear boundary. They don't have, when they're a good DAO, they don't have a clear command and control structure. They're more like biology. And so here's a network map of all the participants in a DAO. And in the center, you can see there's about 20%. These are the people that are working nonstop for the DAO. You know, these are the core contributors. Then around them, 40%, these are the part-time contributors, the people that come in, they maybe submit a pull request or they help out on the forum. And then beyond that, these are the, maybe let's say the token holders. Everybody here is probably a token holder, but these are people that maybe vote on governance every once in a while, stuff like that. Now, you might think you want to get everybody in the middle. You don't. What you want is to have people be able to choose where they want to go. Because a healthy DAO is one where all the agents in it are sovereign, and they're deciding for themselves what they're doing and how they're going to participate. And you want it to be as permissionless as possible, but without total permissionless, because there's some features that need to have gates on them. But really, a DAO is more like biology than we're usually used to. You know, working in a normal corporate environment, there's a rigid hierarchy. There's nothing wrong with hierarchy. The sun is bigger than the moon. There's no getting around this. It's a natural feature of the world. If I'm talking to a PhD quantum physicist, I'm not going to pretend like I have the same level of understanding as they do. That's fine. That's a natural hierarchy. You want fluid hierarchies, not rigid hierarchies. Because rigid hierarchies are brittle. In the corporate structure where there's command and control, all of the information moves up through the chain and gets decided on by the small group of people. That's a real cognitive limitation for that group. How can these small people know everything that should happen in this giant network of people? What you see is this kind of dissociation of the corporate body from the reality of its environment, which causes accelerated extraction and all these bad consequences. But in a DAO, you can function more like biology, more sense and respond feature way of working. And so this is an image of cellular metabolism in a cell of a ribosome, tRNA, mRNA. This is the process of creating proteins. And so the way proteins are made, you have a tRNA, these little guys here, and amino acids. And each tRNA is going to bind to a specific amino acid. And there's no boss telling them what to bind to. It's like these dudes just like these things, and they grab them. That's what they like to do. That's their sovereign choice. They're in consent. That's what they want to do. And when they do that, it happens to turn into a good byproduct, which is now that tRNA amino acid pair can bind to the mRNA, to a codon. And then a ribosome can come around, and it can grab it, and it can say, hey, this is cool. Let's stick this over here. And then you create a protein. All just people floating in space doing what they are called to do, creating something valuable. And the way that works is you need the right structure for the valuable thing to come out. Otherwise, the people are just going to bump into each other. So the work of creating a successful DAO is creating the right structure. But we have to understand what this is before you can even do that. So how do you even know what to do? You're a little amino acid bumping around with all your friends. Like, how do you know what you're supposed to do? There's nobody telling you what to do. This happens at Yearn all the time. People come in, they're like, I want to do something. It's like, great, well, do it, you know? Like, all the resources is there, it's open. It's all on chain, everything's open source. Like, here's all our docs, like, make something. And so, it's so new for people because we're so used to outsourcing the responsibility for our own actions and desires to other people. You get into a business and it's like, now my boss tells me what's good. Or my dad tells me what's good, right? Or some group of people on Twitter tell me what to think. But now in a DAO, you have to take that back. You have to take that responsibility back and choose for yourself what you want and reconnect with your actual, cognition and sensation and belief about the world. So here's one model to do that. This comes from Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept, but I've changed a little bit for DAOs. So when you're in a DAO, the best thing for you to do is what's in the center there. It's a combination of what you love, just purely what you love doing. Don't worry about evaluating it, just what is alive in you, what you're best at, what your skills are. That's easy to find. What you can be paid for, that's important information because these things exist in a market. So what you can be paid for a lot is going to help that DAO. And then finally, what the DAO needs. Now, everything in that area, in the red area, what the DAO needs is going to be something good to do for the DAO. But the stuff in the middle is going to be of most value. And so, what is the actual act of contributing to a DAO? It is an execution. And in a good DAO, there's going to be a lot of permissionless executions available. You might be able to find these on a bounty board, or on a Trello board, or in a GitHub project, or any number of places, or just in the Discord. And then you're going to execute. So now you found the thing that you want to do, you're going to execute it, but this doesn't guarantee it's going to be valuable. There's no boss telling you that this is what you should do, etc. And you might do things and they might not be valuable. So in a DAO with all these sovereign agents, we have to bring in a much more evolved notion of consent. So this is a model actually that comes from Betty Martin from the sacred sexuality world, which helps you understand how to relate to other people, and what the true nature of consent is. And it's super useful for us too. So there's the top part are active things, the bottom part are passive things to receive. On the left, there are things you're giving a gift to the things on the right, and on the right are things that are getting. And so this breaks down into 4 things. You can be serving, I'm gonna make some food for you. You can be taking, whatever. You can be taking, you can be accepting, or you can be allowing. And we'll get into details in each of these. But also importantly is in the middle, that red area, that's the stuff that's in consent. That's the stuff you actually want to do. On the outside of the stuff that's outside of consent that maybe you don't really want to do. You ever get in that situation where you agree to do something but you don't really want to do it? You have to learn this little nuance here. So let's say you're this contributor in a DAO, and you're saying hey, I can't find the financials. Where are the financials at? In the Discord. You're kind of taking in this case. In this case, you're taking up space. You're making noise. Maybe this isn't helpful. And the DAO over here is a version of this. This isn't a contribution. This is noise, right? But then maybe you said, hey, I can't find the financials. You're taking. But actually, this helps the DAO because the DAO is damn, you know what? Our financials are no longer posted in the place where they should be. Thank you for letting me know. I'm going to go and fix them. So the same execution might be a contribution in one case and might be interference in another. Or maybe you're a designer and you really want to make a logo for this DAO, but maybe you're a shit designer and nobody wants your logo. The DAO is going to be, when I say the DAO, this is the whole organism. This is all the people in the DAO, whatever. They might not want it. That's okay. Maybe it's the wrong community for you. Maybe you're actually a good designer, just not the right style. Or maybe you are a really good designer and the DAO really wants your product, but they're not offering any compensation, so that's not really in consent for you. You're outside. But then maybe they add some money to the equation, and now you're down. Now you want to provide it. That's also in consent. That's great. You found a connection there. Or let's say you're a really great developer, and you can allowing is a contribution too. You say, hey, here's my private repo. Take a look at it. This is passive, but you're giving a gift, and the DAO might really enjoy that. Or maybe you don't want to share that information. Don't. Or, the last one is accepting. So how can a contributor within a DAO, be contributing by accepting, receiving an airdrop? DAOs all the time, the DAOs do airdrops because it's valuable for them. So this is great. The DAO wants you to take this money and you want to take it too. Or maybe it's a shitcoin and you don't want it. You know? So looking a little bit more closely at execution, there's more nuance to it that we have to bring out. So it's permissionless execution, and it starts with inspiration. Here's something I want to do. Then you do it, and then there's an evaluation afterwards. And that evaluation might happen unconsciously as just an emergent thing. Like, it's like, this was great, and just everyone loves it, you know, and there's no process, there's no reward. You just feel good about it. Or maybe it's clear that it was bad. Or it can be more formal. There can be formal evaluation processes, like a grants committee that gives you money, and that lets you know that this was a valuable contribution. Or Coordinate, but a tool that I founded with a bunch of people from Yearn, where it does decentralized compensation. And any member of the group at the end of a month can share money with each other. And maybe you get a lot of give tokens, which comes from that. And you're like, wow, okay, I did good. But it doesn't always happen on its own. It's always part of a cycle. There's inspiration, execution, evaluation, and then completion. And completion is the part where it's like, okay, maybe you get paid, maybe you get recognized, maybe your logo gets used and put on the website to close the loop on the action. But this is all permissionless. It gets even more fun when you add in permissioned experiences, right? Permissioned things. This is what we're all familiar from the proposal process in a DAO. You know, you go to Uniswap and you write a proposal to give somebody some money, and then people pass it, and people are like, what? Or maybe, you know, it goes any other way. So this is the full possible cycle for permissioned actions, where inspiration, you write a proposition or proposal, then some group makes a decision. Maybe it's token-weighted voting, maybe it's a wide team, a delegated power team within the group. Then you can execute it, it can be evaluated and completed. So this is important to know because this is how work happens in a decentralized organization. And each of these nodes can be permissionless to one way or another. And each of these nodes might have specific processes attached to them that'll help you to execute the work and to contribute even better and to find an even better sync within that organism. And it's fractal, right? Each of those 6 pieces has all 6 pieces within it, because the decision-making process might have the exact same internal process, and it goes all the way down. So for these decisions, at Yearn started totally permissionless, right? It started totally decentralized, totally open, and we used the same model that a lot of DAOs use, which is on-chain voting and a discourse forum. But that was for like everything, and people were submitting proposals like, Andre should do this podcast or whatever, and it's like, this doesn't make sense, And it's also super limiting, because if you try and make a DAO totally decentralized, but you just have one channel for decision making, that's not really reflects reality. Because humans group together, they create decisions together, they create power structures, they create trusted relationships, and none of that really gets surfaced to the foreground in a standard DAO model. So we created a new model that we call constrained delegation, or governance 2. And what this does is it foregrounds the trusted relationships that emerge in any human network. And instead of letting them be in the shadow, the hidden power structures behind the facade of a decentralized community, it brings them to the front. And it says explicitly, these people are empowered to make these decisions. And if you don't like it, here are the levers you can pull. So this is a bit of a complicated chart, but all of those little diamonds are powers. They're specific powers. These are specific types of decisions. Because you can look at any DAO and you can break it into 100 different types of decisions that need to get made. Which ones require a gated process? Which ones are permissionless? Which ones need a lot of deliberation? Which ones have catastrophic consequences if they happen wrong? And then you can create the correct consensus mechanisms and decision-making processes for each of these. Some need to be made very fast. Some can take a month. All of these are different nuances. So in this way, wifey holders, the token holders, can vote to delegate powers to specific teams. These are the green circles. Each of these teams are emergent. Nobody is saying, you guys get to be a team. Anybody can say, we're going to be a team. We want to be a team, or just me, I want this power. And then the wifey holders can decide. And then what this system does is it helps with decision making for processes within a DAO. But one of the biggest, another huge barrier to having DAOs really function in the decentralized way. And when they are decentralized, by the way, it's not just because that's a cool word. It's far more robust, right? It's robust against attack. It's robust against one single actor taking over control, collusion. And beyond all of that, these are things we're familiar with, it's just a better form of collective intelligence. It allows for leadership to rise in any part of the DAO, regardless of who you are or what you're coming from or how old you are. It's a leaderful organization where anybody, whoever knows best, the leader can be who knows what to do next, right? That's what you want in a DAO. And you need this type of system to do that. But one of the big challenges for DAOs is compensation, too. So decentralized, this is making sure, but decentralized compensation, how do you do that? We ran into this problem at Yearn, and so we built a tool called Coordinate, which allows for fully decentralized compensation. You can take any budget, you put it into a Coordinate circle, and all the members of that circle share it with each other through a decentralized voting process. And even the membership of that circle can grow in a decentralized way by creating trusted one-to-one relationships between the members. If I vouch for you, you can get into the circle. Or you need 3 people to vouch for you. You need 10 people to vouch for you. Depends on the circle. And now you become a member of that circle. You can start contributing and getting rewarded without any CEO or central body making a decision. And that's it.
If we have any questions from the audience, we'll be taking them at this time.
Hi, it's a really great talk. What I'm curious about is you mentioned that if someone vouches for you, then that can, well, I internalize it as creating credibility. I'm wondering if in the very early stages of a DAO, which a lot of places are, couldn't they be vulnerable to one bad actor bringing in all their baddie friends?
So the question was, if you allow membership via vouching, decentralized vouching, which is kind of giving somebody some form of reputation, can't some unscrupulous actor come in and take over or do bad things? Yes, people can do bad things, and they do. But when you create a vouching system like this, you're creating a chain of accountability. And so, it looks bad for you if you bring in a bad actor. And also in Coordinate, the potential for bad actions are fairly non-catastrophic. It would be pretty hard to steal very much money, and it would be very obvious, just through the nature of the give circle.
So first of all, great talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you turn the volume up on the mic? I can't quite hear him.
Hey there.
Okay.
So my question really centers on the idea that, what I'm struggling with is how do I incorporate contrarianism and value contrarianism inside.
Can you say louder, please?
How can I incorporate contrarianism into my DAO and value contrarianism in a meaningful way? And then secondarily, can we do the same thing with empathy? Because those are valuable components of a healthy organization, but difficult to represent in code.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's a great question. So the question was, how can we create systems that allow for contrarianism or people to have differing points of view, as well as empathy? And I think the key thing there is sovereignty, right? Now this word gets maligned a little bit because you can think of a sovereign as a king, somebody that has dominion over other people. But that's only kind of one developmental lens on this idea. A little bit more of an awakened perspective on this is that I have control over my own being, over my own needs, of my own feelings. I don't outsource that to anybody. And I decide if I want to create a trusted relationship with somebody. And if they hurt me, that's okay. I'm open to that, right? It's a little touchy-feely, but this is actually the foundation of how this type of decentralized work has to happen. The agents have to be sovereign, or else there's going to be unhealthy, larger organism. And when you have this type of sovereignty, and you have, first of all, you need a system that can support that, right? There's been studies, you put a bunch of people into a jail, they start to act like they're inmates, right? You put people into a beautifully designed, architecture building, they're going to collaborate in a better way, right? So the DAO has those same features, and the structure of a DAO is going to directly relate to the quality of the culture, right? So blockchain does a tremendous thing here, which it takes away a tremendous amount of fear, because all the assets, all your money, they're safe. They're seifu, right? And then from that, you can build these trusted relationships. And that's why you see in this community so much trust. I've had so many people say, yeah, I'll just give you money for this project, no problem, or let's do something. Handshake deals all over the place. Well, I ran companies for years, normal companies. Everything's papered, contracts, lawyers, whatever. You don't need that here. It's because there's this foundation of trust. And then on top of that, people become more free to be themselves and to voice their opinion because they know the consequences, right, or to be empathic. So, thank you.
All right, we'll wrap up our questions here. Thank you once again. A warm round of applause for our speaker. Our next speaker is Ashar Shahid from API 3, and their workshop is entitled How to Use